Hey everyone, and welcome to the Irish Sports Daily Instant Reaction Notre Dame versus USC post game show. I'm Greg Lamong, live from the Coliseum. That's Jamie Ueyama. Notre Dame loses the game 38-27 to finish 8-4, and USC looks like they might be going on to the playoffs if they can win the Pac-12 title game because LSU blew their game against the great Texas A&M Aggies. um, that's going to set up USC really well, Jamie. It looks like USC band's going to get ready to play some stuff, so I'll send it over to you. Just talk about your thoughts on the game, what you saw. Obviously, Caleb Williams was a handful for Notre Dame to deal with today. I tell you what, man. Before I send it over and before that band starts playing, I don't know that I can recall a quarterback where it's just so much of what they do offensively is predicated on him being just like a magical football player. I mean, there were so many times when he was literally just outside the framework of what the play is supposed to be, and he makes the play. And I don't know that I've ever seen that to that degree. But what did you see tonight, Nick?
Yeah, I think I mean I used to track what would you call like improv yards for Ian Book and what he did. And he created, that was like a lot of Ian Book's game, right? Was creating outside of the framework of the play. And I mean, Notre Dame won a lot of games like that. Oh, by the way, sorry, Mike's not here. He's not feeling well. It's got nothing to do with the game. This is something that just came up today. So yeah, so just apologies to everyone that he couldn't make it, but yeah, he's not doing too well right now. So yeah, that's why. So he didn't, I mean, he obviously no Notre Dame fan got to enjoy the game, but I mean, he really didn't get to enjoy the game because he's not feeling too well right now. So just, I hope everyone, keep Mike in your thoughts and hope that he's feeling better soon. Yeah, I want to say that I think that's the thing with Caleb Williams. Like, I don't know how many plays, I mean, literally every drive, especially third down, like just backbreaking plays, right? Where he did that. And I think, and one of the things too, they ran the ball extremely well, and they've done it all year, right? They're like number one in the country in EPA per rush. And the big thing is because you can't sell out to stop the rush. You're always going to have even numbers against the rush because Williams is just so dangerous and the receivers are so good that you can't get outmanned at any point. You have to have extra people in the thing, and you have to take chances by blitzing and try to run blitz and do these things. And Notre Dame wasn't hitting on the run blitz stuff, and they weren't getting production from that. And because of that, they could like pretty much do whatever they wanted because they could just run the football so effectively. And then even if, you saw he was so good game and just the Reed game, I mean, he made a couple of those like that one touchdown where like Mills made the correct play, right? He made the correct play, tackled the running back. He literally pulled it right from him. And I mean, he's a magical player. Any like Notre Dame fan who wants to make this about like anything else other than Caleb Williams just being like incredibly special, like there's other stuff that we can get into in the game that, I mean, obviously cost him the game, but Notre Dame really had to play close to perfect to beat a guy like that. And that's just where they're at right now, because Notre Dame doesn't have, I mean, I think if Notre Dame had like a Roquan Smith type, even like a JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah type at linebacker, just a guy who was just like a freakish guy who could make a play, or just an absolute game record defensive tackle. That's something that you can combat some of that stuff and stop the running game and then making it all on kind of Williams passing. But without that, it just was, I think it was just going to be too difficult. And then like, there's the kind of luck part of it too, right? Like, Drew Pine fumbles the ball, they land on it, right? Foskey, great play, hustling it down.
Well, Drew Pine fumbles, no one around him. That's the other part.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, that made it tough. I mean, it was the failed 4th and 1 when they went to sneak it. They didn't get that. You don't get points, and you're moving the ball too. That's the other part. I mean, you're in USC territory. You're at the 30, and then you have, they're driving to start the second half. You're going to cut it. You're hoping to cut it to 3 at that point. You fumble the ball with no one around, and then the funny thing, and I think he was going to pull it, but then he noticed that if he had given the ball to Estime was going to run for days, and that didn't really work out. So that's just a tough one. Yeah, I don't know what to do about the audio. I wasn't going to be on this show. I'm going to try to hand it off to Jamie as much as I can, but we're just trying to make it happen. But yeah, it was a tough. Those two events really hurt Notre Dame in that game. Jamie, what did you think about the lack of linebacker rotation in this game?
I think it spoke volumes that they don't trust the other guys. Like, I think that was the main thing, right? Is that they didn't trust the other guys to do, like, I think you could have argued that I think Kaiser did play quite a bit, actually, because they ended up playing, they played like a 3-3, a decent amount. So he played quite a bit. I think you could say that, they probably could have played Kaiser more and got him like more involved and made it a 3 kind of man there, instead of like every time that it was like, they were in their regular like base nickel. I think that would have maybe helped a bit, but I don't think it was a case of like Bertrand or Maris, like kind of wearing down at the end. I think it's just more like those guys they've gone better. They have gone better over the year. And I do want to emphasize that they have, but in this game, they weren't like what you needed in this game. And I think, that's what you kind of hope for, that like next year, like guys like Cully and guys like Jalen Sneed, as well as these guys who should be back as well, like maybe they're more there, because you just need more from there. You need more from that position in this kind of game. And of course, it's incredibly difficult. They're RPOing you to death. There's a million things you got to worry about. But it really just takes exceptional linebacker play to be able to do it. And I mean, I don't even think the plan was that bad. Like for Notre Dame's defense, like look at how much pressure they got on Williams. I bet if like, when you look at like the PFF numbers after the game, when they post them up tomorrow, it has to be over 50% pressure, like well over. And that's like unbelievable. I mean, but how many plays did he turn those pressure into big plays? Like, and that's the one thing that's all they could do against him, is get that pressure. Right. So, I mean, it's tough. And then obviously too, you add in the fact that, Mickey had to obviously go from basically being like the 5th corner to like the 2nd corner in the game, right? Essentially, right? Because they had to play Lewis at nickel. And I don't even think Mickey, it stands out because, he got beat on a couple plays, but he didn't play that bad really in the game. That's not why they lost the game. They lost the game because of what they did on defense. Like Williams is magic, and essentially they couldn't stop the ball with just like 5-6 guys in the box. They couldn't. Oh, and okay, we'll just go to.
No, audio better. Is this better?
It's a bit better, yeah.
Okay. What did you think? So I'm looking at the cumulative, like I'm looking at the quarter stats. And in the first half, USC ran the ball. Let me find it here. USC ran the ball for 19 carries for 65 yards, 3.4 yards per carry, right? Like, I think you were talking about how Notre Dame was getting gashed. And I didn't think that, in the first half, it was really the third quarter. It's really what did it for Notre Dame. They had USC ran the ball 10 times for 146 yards. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 times for 96 yards, 9.6 yards per carry. And it was really that drive after the Drew Pine fumble that really did in Notre Dame as a rush defense. And so my opinion on that is, when you're dealing with a player like Caleb Williams, who's already in the first half, he's already improvising all over the place. He's killing you with his improv runs and that sort of thing. It's like it stretches the defense mentally, and it makes it very hard for the team for the defense to key in on anything, and that makes you like slow to read on all kind of run plays and that sort of thing. Did you see the same thing?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And then, I mean, if you look at like what Austin Jones did third quarter, right? I think that was the other thing, right? Is that like 24 yards, 13 yards, 6 yards, 14 yards, 2 yards, 12 yards. That's just the third quarter, right? Like, I mean, I think like some of it was, you know, like second level, he was just able to get to that second level. And I think part of it is they adjusted. They knew like as soon as they were going, as soon as they were going that 3-3 look, they knew it was like, oh, this is like basically, you know, that Marist, that's what they're doing. They're basically using Marist as like a down lineman essentially, because he was blitzing like every single time that they're doing that. But once they know that, and that he's just going to getting into that gap, they can't do anything like about it. Like it's as soon as they do that, they had that down. It's like you had to get out of that, because then they started just gashing them with it, and that was really like the big thing. And I think it was like probably like a good like shot at it, just to kind of like mess up with, especially with some of like the RPO stuff and some of the other stuff they do over the middle, and it did take away some of that stuff. But then the other thing is that it ends up, you know, screwing them in terms of what it means for the run game, and that's where it kind of like took off. But I want to get kind of like transition to like what Notre Dame did on offense, because I mean, obviously, you know, Caleb Williams is exceptional, right? But like, really, when you come down to it, like Notre Dame on offense, like they were 5 of 7 on third down, which, you know, I think you'd be like 5 of 7 on third down. Like, first of all, that's not enough third downs, but still, like 5 of 7 on third down, you take it any day of the week. 7.8 yards per play. You know, Drew Pine, 88% you know, completion percentage, threw for 318 in the game. I mean, he averaged, you know, well over like basically like 11 yards per attempt or whatever it was. So, I mean, when you get that kind of thing, like it's hard to be like, okay, the offense like kind of cost Notre Dame in this, but it really, what it came down to was those short yardage plays at the beginning of the game. You just couldn't afford to have that happen early in the game, to not be able to convert on those short yardage plays. So that happened. And then the fumble, as soon as that fumble happened, I was like, Notre Dame, it was just going to be impossible, because then Notre Dame had to get 2 consecutive stops to be able to get back into the game. And I just don't think they were ever going to get that unless like they started calling like some of the holds and all that kind of stuff. And it is true that, you know, some of those calls should have been made, like in terms of the holding calls, like that should happen. But still, like a lot of those calls don't get called in any game. You know, it just becomes more obvious to Notre Dame fans when they're watching it, because, you know, you see like he's making these ridiculous long plays. And I mean, they could have called the hold on almost every one of those, right? But it's just one of those things that like they never do. You're never going to get those calls, so you got to get them on the ground. And there's a million times where guys were free and you just couldn't get him on the ground because he was just that good. And that's really what it boils down to.
All right. Is this audio better?
Yes.
All right. So I switched to my phone. So I'm on my phone. This USC band is playing like a whole concert afterwards. It's like killing my vibe here, which is unfortunate. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. I mean, Drew Pine, I mean, you were just talking about 23 of 26, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had the 1 interception, which was, trying to force a ball at the end of the game, right? Like that's what
I mean,
what
it's a circumstance.
Right,
play,
right. It's
it wasn't a good play, but it was like you're trying to just do anything to because he's thinking about it's 2nd and 10, and then he's like, if I throw the ball away here, it's 3rd and 10. We're in a bad spot. That's why that happened, and it's unfortunate that it happened. It was obviously the kind of play that ended the game, but he's trying to win the game. So I mean, I don't mind that. And I do understand, like, this isn't a game, like USC's defense is bad. They are bad. That's ultimately why it doesn't matter that why if they could lose next week against Utah, or they're definitely going to lose to someone in the college football playoff because their defense is just not good enough. Like they will, and Georgia's the kind of defense that has enough guys that even though Caleb Williams is phenomenal, they won't score on every drive against Georgia. That's just Georgia's defense is too good. So that will like ultimately end up losing it for them. So you don't want to overreact to, no one should be like, and I see it. No one wants Drew Pine to be the quarterback thing, but at the same time, like, give this guy credit. Give this guy credit, man. Like, who would have predicted that he would even come out and have this game? I think people would have been happy if, going into the game, you said Drew Pine completed 60% of his passes in this game and was like, pretty good on 3rd down. You would take it. You would take it.
Right. And too, like, it was one of those things where I think if Notre Dame knew that Drew Pine was going to play as well as he did, I think they would have gone into the game completely different. I think they could have led with the pass and then gotten to the run game later. And instead it went the opposite way. And it got them, I thought the first 3rd and 3 or like 3rd and 2, when they really like didn't, like they tried to run wide with Diggs there, like that didn't work. Then it got them down 10-0. And it was just a bad start to the game. But it was a great performance by Drew Pine, I thought, just given the circumstances. But I think there's the contrast of, like, you can see what USC can do with their guy. So it's not so much the way that Drew Pine is playing, was playing really well, but it's like the USC can do so much more, and they can plan to do so much more with Caleb Williams, and that threatens the defense in a way that Notre Dame simply can't, because of the types of plays that they can run. And it plays such a big difference in the game. Go ahead.
And I think that's exactly why you root for, just in general, people root for Tyler Buchner to be the guy, and why Tyler Buchner won the job out of camp, because it's so much harder to like have an offense and have all these threats if your quarterback is limited in any way, really, right? And obviously there's zero limitations on Caleb Williams. Like, he can run, he can escape, he can make any throw you want. There's zero limitation of him. He's a great decision maker, all these things. The guy's, going to be like the number 1 pick, when he leaves after. Unfortunately, Notre Dame's going to have to play him again next year. But after he leaves, he's going to be the number 1 pick. But I think with Buchner, the thing is that, just with him or guys like him, and why it's important that you've got to have that kind of element to it. And when you don't have it, like, unless you have a guy who's just like so good at all the, like elite in every other category, when you don't have that other running element or that ability to escape, like, and just really create like dynamic kind of things from it, you just are never going to be able to, because there's going to be play calls that don't work and are bad, or guys get beat. And what can the guy do to kind of bail people out? And that's just Caleb Williams. Like, I mean, if I played on USC's defense, I'd be like, man, I just love Caleb Williams so much, because like, they suck. Their defense sucks, but it doesn't even matter, because he's like, their quarterback's that good.
So Notre Dame only ran 52 plays today, 408 yards total offense, 7.8 yards per play. They had more yards per play than USC did. right? It's like they had it going. That's the thing. That's the frustrating part of it, is like it was missed opportunities for them. Again, talking about the fumble by Pine and the missed field, or in the missed fourth down. I mean, they had opportunities there. And I think I don't know that we touched on it, as much as we could have. But again, losing Bracey and Cam Hart, I mean, those are two of your best corners against this team specifically. And I know a lot of people are giving, Jaden Mickey a hard time in the comments, and you mentioned it before. Like, he's your fifth, sixth corner, right? And he's got to go the whole way. I mean, he was in there on almost every single play. Maybe there were some goal line plays where he wasn't a part of it, but if he's gonna be a all the way player for Notre Dame, that's a bad situation for the team to be in.
Oh, he was playing like a handful of plays before this game.
Right. That's a bad situation, especially against this specific team. And then you're going, you're not rotating linebackers or anything like that. Like, it just makes it very difficult for the defense. But part of it too is in this game, I felt like going into it, it had to go a certain kind of way. You couldn't miss opportunities, and you had to find a way to slow them down. USC was 6 of 6 in the red zone today, 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal, and the red zone defense did it again. It was a bad red zone year for Notre Dame, and then it was a bad, again, USC. We talked about how I think it was Wednesday. We talked about how it was just like a special turnover year for USC, and it happened again. They get a turnover when there's no one even near the ball. And then Isaiah Foskey hustles down on Jordan Addison, strips him, and Jordan Addison's able to recover it before Maris comes in and hits it out again. It's overturned on replay. Like, that's the sort of thing that has been going right for USC all season, and it bit Notre Dame in this specific game. And it was just a tough circumstance. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, the thing about the offense, too, is like you look at the receivers, right? Like Michael Mayer, 8 catches, 98 yards. Lorenzo Styles, 4 for 34. Deion Colsey, 3 for 75. Diggs, 3 for 32. Estime, 2 for 31. Jaden Thomas, 2 for 23. Braden Lindsey, 1 for 25. I mean, good offensive performance. It just not enough against USC in this football game.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're taking another thing just out of it, first of all, like Lorenzo Styles, after kind of basically being like a nothing burger for the last half of the year, really like contributed in this game as a receiver. Deion Colsey, like, wow, I think like, made obviously a couple big time catches. I think that's what you wanted to come out of the year with, is like guys like Colsey and Thomas, like developing and, being something. I think that's like, huge. Okay. On the D line, I think I don't even know if it was like, if you look at it, some of it is like, well, first of all, I don't think Jason Venable is like healthy at all. I think he hasn't been healthy for quite a while. So that's part of it. And I think if you look at it, he's had not a great year in terms of like the kind of what was expected of him, especially in terms of like numbers, in terms of like disruption and stuff. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. I also think that, I'll have to go back and watch it or whatever. It's just that a lot of the times too, I don't even think like guys were, if a guy was winning, Styles is slow. I mean, get out, man. Get it. I don't even know what the heck.
I didn't mean to put that up. I meant to put up another comment.
Yeah, no, I was just like, what? Like, people just write just wild ass stuff after the game. Like, I don't even know what people are talking about, but I mean, that is not his problem. Obviously, his problem was the drops this year. I think, the defensive line, I think just, I just don't think that, first of all, USC's offensive line is pretty good. They're pretty good. That's just a fact, right? They're pretty solid. Like Jonah Monheim, who was a guy that you probably heard his name this year. That's a guy that Notre Dame tried to steal and didn't get. Like, 100% he'd start for Notre Dame. He's a very good player. He's a very good player who'd start at guard for Notre Dame. And they have like a couple other guys that are like good. They have like, this is probably their best offensive line they've had in quite some time. I just think, you know, it wasn't even that they were bad. They just didn't win enough. They didn't win enough. And then when it comes to like, you know, you really have to have like linebackers that are just so perfect in terms of what they're doing. Like JD Bertrand makes a great like read on a play to get like had a chance to have Jones in the backfield gets beat, right? You just can't have that. You just can't have that.
So much with the USC offense, it makes your mind busy, and that slows you down. Because I tweeted it out right at the first drive. Like Notre Dame is so like slow right now. They're slow reacting to everything because it's you are not sure what they're doing, and the offense is sure, right? So they can move a lot quicker, and they just get that little edge on you, and then they're able to just be a half step quicker than you are, and next thing you know, they're through the hole, or the wide receiver is like that much by you in a pass route, and that makes the biggest difference in a game where it's like USC's faster already, right? They already have the better foot speed, so it just makes a huge difference. And Notre Dame caught up to it a little bit, you know, near the second quarter, a little bit in the third quarter, but eventually, you know, and then you add into Caleb Williams doing what he's doing, and he's just going to make plays over and over again. It makes it very difficult, very, very difficult.
One thing too, I saw that Bracy, it was a hamstring. It was a hamstring with him for anyone who might have missed that. So, I mean, obviously that was a big thing because I think in this game too, when you look at like guys like Hart and Bracy, and obviously the depth and you mentioned with like Mickey and Lewis playing like way more than they normally would, but in this game, you're not going to stop USC, but you need to have enough plays. You need to make enough plays to get them into like some long yardage situation. And Bracy and Hart, I mean, I don't think either of those guys, they're not all Americans, but they're guys that if they can make enough, they can make a play here too. That you're going to get like 2 or 3 plays from those guys in a game. And that's one of the things that is going to like, you know, make or break in a game like this, not having those guys. And it just kind of shows too, like, I mean, most teams wouldn't be able to handle like 2 of their top 3 corners out against USC. I think that's pretty fair. It's not just like a Notre Dame thing. But to say that it wasn't a factor, I mean, it was a huge factor.
I mean, look, at some point, it just gets like, hey, it's too much in a big game, right? You're playing the number 6 team or whatever it is. You can't just have those guys not playing, you know, like that's just not going to work, you know, like at some point it gets to be too much. It's a critical mass of people out that it makes it very difficult, right? And so you lose the game 38-27, you know, and that's unfortunately, those are just kind of the breaks of it, right? And I think, you know, USC was the better football team going into it. Notre Dame could have won the game if the game went a certain kind of way, but it obviously didn't. And so, you know, that's why for me, it's like I'm not super upset about this outcome, right? Like it makes sense given what Notre Dame didn't have and then the way that the game went, right? Like it's not super surprising that USC was able to move the ball a ton offensively with Caleb Williams doing what he was doing, right? It's disappointing, obviously, that the defense was able to allow them to run it as much, right? Like you said it before, like look, you have to win the numbers game. The numbers are even. You have to win one-on-one matchups, and they weren't able to do that, and that's an unfortunate outcome. But I think I'm pretty understanding of the fact that like Notre Dame was up against it kind of anyway. They had to play a great game, and then you're out Bracy and Cam Hart. Makes it extremely difficult.
Yeah. I you know, and I do want to say something too about the transfer thing and what it can mean. And obviously like Notre Dame could add transfers. And if they added more transfers, I mean, it absolutely helps. Whatever. I'm not going to say that it doesn't. Like Notre Dame should be able to take more transfers than they do, right? And Hopefully that changes, but in saying that, like, just a reminder that, like, Caleb Williams is, if they could grab all the guys they wanted, and they could have taken, Jordan Addison won the Blitnikoff. The guy's an awesome player, but just imagine they take all these guys that from the portal, but then they don't get Caleb Williams a quarterback, and pick any other quarterback that was in the portal this year. And obviously the reason they got Caleb Williams is because of Lincoln Riley and the connection with Oklahoma, right? And that's the reason that they got him. But just imagine Caleb Williams was like, I'm going to stay at Oklahoma, or instead of that, and then they have to take Dylan Gabriel or whoever. And I'm sorry, like, it's just USC. I don't even know if they're probably like a 7-win team, right? That's the difference. So I think people who are hoping, like, Notre Dame, I absolutely should go in the portal, should find somebody to compete there, to hopefully be their starting quarterback next year. Chances are, you could get a Russell Wilson. You can get like Jalen Hurts every once in a while. Those guys can be there. It's rare though, and it's very hard to get it. And it's even more rare. I think it's downright. To get a Caleb Williams, there's like a Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. They come into the portal once in a blue moon, basically.
Right. And you look at even Jordan Addison today, right? 3 for 45. Like, none of those receivers really did anything in this game. It was mostly a Caleb Williams show, right? Like, making things happen with his legs and his arm and that sort of thing. Makes it very difficult. And like, Notre Dame needs to find a way, right? They need to get someone like that. They need to get Jalen Snead, right? We're talking about how you deal with something like that. Jalen Snead, Josh Burnham, Nolan Ziegler, Junior Tuihalamaka. Those guys, right? Like, you need to get Prince Colley. Like, Prince Colley was not a factor in this game, and he's the type of person that needs to be a factor in a game with this kind of speed and those kind of athletes on the field, right? Christian Gray is coming in. Hopefully you hang on to Peyton Bowen. Like, these are the guys that are going to match up. Like someone asked before, like, how do you stop a Lincoln Riley offense? That's how. You get athletes, you get them in space, you get them able to make plays where if Caleb Williams wants to do that whole twirly whirly in the back, and you have someone who can chase him down. Right now it was Chris Smith, so that makes it very, very difficult. Jamie, any kind of final thoughts? We need to wrap it up. They're like showing playing the press conference in my ears right now.
Well, one, I think, you look at, I think obviously if Notre Dame had won this game, people view this season, and it becomes like this whole different narrative, right? With the way things are finished, And I still don't think, though, like, people should discount kind of like what Notre Dame did to bounce back after starting 0-2 and then 3-3. They deserve a ton of credit for that. I do think, if you end up going, 9-4 and you win the bowl game, and you had Drew Pine as your quarterback, and for all the ups and downs you've experienced with Drew Pine, that's a pretty good year. It's not what you want, but it's a pretty good year. So there's still like chances there for Notre Dame to kind of have, a good season. I think like this is also like something there where it's obvious that USC next year as well. That's going to be a game that is, no matter who I think the defense will be better. I hope so. This defense is trash. The defense will be better, and Caleb Williams is still going to be exceptional. If I was Caleb Williams, I would get out, and I'd be like, do I need to play another year of college football? I'm sure he will, though. But because he's going to get paid. He's already getting paid a ton. So I think, one of the things, USC, that is going to be a game every year. And I think now, like, Jack Swarbrick as much as you want to get these like Ohio States and you want to get all these other big time programs on the schedule, you have to realize that you're going to play USC every year. And as long as Lincoln Riley's there, it's going to be a tough out every year.
All right, guys, we're gonna cut it short today because of our situation here. But you want to tune into the morning after show tomorrow morning. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be at my house with my normal setup, so I'll go over much more of this. We'll talk about the season overall. We'll talk about this game. We'll go over stats and all those things. You're gonna want to check out Jamie on Power Hour. You're gonna want to tune into us next week. We're gonna find out about the bowl game. We're gonna find out about all that stuff. So you're gonna want to stay tuned in for that. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a tough game. We'll digest it some more, talk about it tomorrow morning. That's going to be 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for dealing with the audio issues and all that other stuff. It was very difficult to deal with. So we appreciate you guys. And, one more time, tough game today. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And so have a good night. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning.